إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the title of our khutbah is When Considering a Career. This khutbah is based on an observation I made over 20 years ago, and 2 years ago I found a study confirming it. The overwhelming majority of our youth, they all believe, they have this firm belief that when they get old, they will be successful, they will be famous, or in the least case, they're going to be millionaires. It's almost impossible to find a young man or boy who does not believe that they're going to be a successful millionaire when they grow up. The reasons behind that is that on television and on the internet, what happens is it creates an illusion that wealth is readily achievable because they see people living lavish lifestyles and they see successful entrepreneurs, so they believe that this is very easy. And then they see social media influencers that project an image of luxury and wealth, and they don't fully disclose the effort and the amount of work it took to reach that level. So the result is that young people believe that this is easily attainable. On top of that, they add from the reasons lack of financial literacy. They have unrealistic expectations. They don't know about investing, personal finance, the time and commitment to build wealth. So they just imagine that it's easy. And then they mention that there are so many, or the mentality of this get rich quick, this mentality is very prevalent in our times. You always hear stories of people who suddenly went viral, became an overnight sensation, or they won the lottery, or someone started a company and then he sold it for $1 billion, or he built an app and someone bought it for $300 million. So you see this all around you, you start to believe it'll happen to you. And then they mention optimistic bias. They underestimate the challenges and obstacles. In this khutbah, we want to look at statistical probabilities of making it to the NBA, or becoming an MMA fighting champion, or a famous YouTuber, or an actor, and some other things to consider. But I'd like to begin by a narration mentioned by Imam al-Dhahabi, narrated by Abu Yusuf, who is a student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. قال أبو حنيفة لما أردت طلب العلم جعلت أتخير العلوم وأسأل عن عواقبها. So when I wanted to choose a career path to study, when I'm seeking knowledge, I started to ask about each branch or science, and then what is the end result. فقيل تعلم القرآن. It was said to me, learn the Quran. So I said, if I memorize the Quran, what happens next? They said, تجلس في المسجد فيقرأ عليك الصبيان والأحداث. He said, you sit in the masjid, and then the very young kids and the youth, they come and they recite upon you. And then one day, one of them will surpass you or become equal to you, so you will lose your position. So then he said, so what if I hear the ahadith and I write them down until there is no one in the world that is comparable to me? They said, when you get old and weak, then the youth and the young will come and gather around you. And then inevitably you will make a mistake, and then they will accuse you of lying, and that will be counted against you. So he said, I have no need for that. And then he said, what if I learn أتعلم النحو? I learn a language. They said, you will sit and you will teach the youth, and they'll give you a dinar or 3. So he said, then what if I learn fiqh? And they said, you will be asked questions, and you will give fatwa to people, and you will be asked to become a judge even if you're a young man. قلت ليس في العلوم أنفع من هذا. I said to myself, there is no knowledge better than this. فتعلمت الفقه فالتزمت الفقه وتعلمته. So I sought out fiqh and I learned it. Now, I want one thing from the narration, and I admit there are some things wrong with the narration, but I want to share them for the sake of that honesty. Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah himself commented, he said it is unlikely that Imam Abu Hanifa chose fiqh because of his status and becoming a judge. What's the proof? In his life, when he was offered to become a judge, he completely refused it, and he caused tension between him and the Khalifa. And then also the Quran. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. It's not just about someone surpassing you in voice and becoming better than you or anything like that. So it could be that the people he was consulting were just not knowledgeable. They were just average laymen, and they were giving him these wrong estimations of the end result. Or it could also be that some of his estimations were due to him not being learned at the time. You study his biography, he started to seek knowledge when he was much older than the typical. So it could be that the way he estimated the end result also, wasn't that of a learned person. And is also not motivated by money. At the end of the day, because you're going to get 1 or 3 dinars, that's why he doesn't want to become from the Nahawiyin, the linguists. But what is good about the narration, that's the only reason I mentioned this narration, is that this young man kept asking, what is the end result of pursuing this? What is the end result of spending my time doing this? And this is what the khutbah is about. This khutbah is not about crushing dreams or telling you which career to choose, but it is, what is the end result of what we spend the bulk of our time on? So for example, when you speak to youth who spend hours playing video games, their answer is almost always that there is such and such who was a gamer and he won a tournament and he won over $1 million. Right. Statistically, you have less than a 1% chance of becoming a millionaire gamer. I'm going to give you an example, and remember this for the rest of the khutbah. I call this the Medina brothers. And I would meet these people, young brothers who want to go study overseas in Medina University, Islamic University. One particular brother, he applied for the Medina Islamic University, and he's waiting for the response to come. So in the meantime, he said, I'm just going to drive a cab. If I go to school, I have to stop it. If I start a career, I have to end it to go to Medina. So he started to drive a cab, and for 5 years, he's driving this cab, waiting for Medina to respond. And in these 5 years, please focus on the story, Jazakumullah Khair. This is not about being a cab driver or putting down being a cab driver. Some people just never focus. Please focus with me. All right? The point is that he spent 5 years driving a cab. He could have spent 4 years and got a degree and even started 1 year into his master's. He could have started a career at a company. The point is that, so what's the answer? The answer is, when you behave here, your life, you live as if Medina University doesn't even exist on the planet. You sent your application form, and then you work towards your degree, and you study, and you work as if Medina doesn't even exist. And if the call comes through one day, you drop what you're doing, and then you go pursue your passion. But if it doesn't come, you still advanced as a person, you still studied, you still built your career. You didn't just wait and stay on hold. So that's what we're talking about here. So learn and acquire skills, do what you love, and also consider whether it's halal or not. Let's look at mixed martial arts. And mixed martial arts is blown up, and all our youth, everywhere you go, I travel the country and I just meet people and they're in mixed martial arts. There is nothing wrong with that. Learn it, enjoy it, have the skill, but don't let it consume your life. Don't let it take you away from your studies or or take you away from learning your religion. There's a difference between doing that, learning boxing, sparring is halal, but pursuing a career in that. Not permissible. You're hitting people in the face. That's the whole aim of hitting people in the face. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam explicitly prohibited that. So you don't pursue a career in something like that. And by the way, becoming a boxing champ, there is a less than 1% chance in that. So, And there are other things to consider. Yani so many of our youth, they'll just disappear from the masjid. Where are you doing? Where are you? Just mixed martial arts. طيب. The median annual salary in 2024 for a UFC fighter was $51,370. 43% of the fighters, they made less than $45,000 a year, which is very little. There is no health insurance. There is no retirement. The top earners made $112,000 a year. 112,000, yeah, 112,000 a year. But how long does it take to become one of the top earners? What are the odds you'll become one of the top earners? And then how many years can you keep doing that with it taking its toll on your body for just 112,000 a year? And then, but people look at the millionaire fighters and the odds of reaching that are even less or even lower. Look at basketball. Nothing wrong with basketball. Learn it. Use it to get into shape. But if you look at trying to make it to the NBA, and wallahi, it's not about crushing dreams. Just follow with me. If you look at the NBA, 0.03% of high school basketball players make it to the NBA. A small percentage of them make it. 3% of high school basketball players, they make it to college division basketball. And then 1.2% of those that make that have an appearance on the NBA. Yani look at it this way, in another way. They said there were 500,000 high school basketball players, 500,000. Only 16,000 from 500,000 made it to college divisions. And then from those 16,000, only 110 made an NBA appearance. They didn't become a star in the NBA, just an appearance in the NBA. So if you want a career, look at that and look at other factors. Like the average height of an NBA player is 6'6", basically. But look at all these things. Consider all these things. In American football, there were 1,083,000 and change high school players competing, and 251 became pros. So statistically, that's 0.023% of those who made it. Soccer, they say for an American soccer player to make it to the top tier levels, it's a 1 in 55,393 chance of making that. 1.4% of college soccer players will make it to the pros. So play, learn, enjoy it, aim high. The point is, going back to the Medina example, what's your plan B? So that's why I'm saying this khutbah is not crushing your dreams. You can make it. Have a plan B, because there's a 99% chance you won't make it. So what do you fall back on? That's all we're saying. YouTuber, less than a 1% chance of you becoming a popular YouTuber. There is a massive pool of creators, millions of people, and only a small percentage will have enough of a following and earn enough of an income from being a YouTuber. An actor, to become a top tier actor, there's a 1 in 1.5 million and some change, or a 0.40 and then 63%. And only 2% of them are going to make a living from acting. So one more time, do what you love, make sure it's halal, be realistic, pursue your career, but also know your odds, have a backup plan is what we're saying. For the adults who don't understand who don't understand why this khutbah topic, I've been dealing with you since 1994. That's exactly 30 years. And I'm telling you, it's overwhelmingly insane. The number of youth who all believe they're going to be famous and millionaires and successful. And they tell you how many cars they're going to have. The guy's 8 years old. And he tells you he's going to have a giraffe as a pet. ومش عارف إيش. If you're not aware of it, I'm very aware of it. And I'm telling you. So take into consideration when choosing a career, I'm speaking to the youth now, take into consideration what the ummah needs, what the community needs. Take into consideration benefiting people and living to please Allah Azza wa Jal, and also calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion. Narrated by Tabarani that Abdullah ibn Dinar, he narrates from a number of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, "Qila Ya Rasulullah, man ahabbu an-nasi ila Allah?" They asked, Ya Rasulullah, who are the most beloved people to Allah? قال أنفعهم للناس, the most beneficial of them to others. يعني, you would imagine a hadith of who is the most beloved to Allah, well, something about the longest hours in prayer or longest days in fasting. But the one who benefits others the most, للناس, didn't even say للمؤمنين or the Muslimin, the ones who benefit people the most. And then the hadith continues, of the most beloved deeds to Allah is to bring happiness to a believer, or you remove a difficulty from him, or you settle a debt for him, or you push hunger away from him. Then the Prophet ﷺ says, and to accompany a brother of mine on an errand or an issue, a problem that he has. And he didn't say to solve it, just to accompany him on trying to solve a problem is more beloved to me than to make i'tikaf in this masjid of mine for 1 month. The Masjid al-Nabawi, where the salah equals 10,000, and the Prophet ﷺ would prefer to walk trying to help his brother take care of something, and that's more beloved to him than to make i'tikaf, never leave the masjid, and then be in constant worship for 30 days. In Sahih Muslim, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, من استطاع منكم أن ينفع أخاه فليفعل, which whomever of you is capable or is able to benefit his brother, then let him do so. So the reminder is, live to please Allah, live to be beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal, to worship Allah and to call to Allah. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم من كل ذنب فاستغفروه قد أفلح المستغفرون. الحمد لله على إنعامه وأشكر له على تفضيله وامتنانه ولا إله إلا هو تعظيما لشانه وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأخوانه. أما بعد. There are many talks, by Muslim speakers on the internet, many talks about leaving a legacy. In my personal opinion, that's very harmful because the focus is leaving a legacy, something to be remembered by. So it leads people to market themselves, to do things to grab attention, to make their name memorable, and it can lead to doing things with the wrong intention. The better way, and there is a khutbah that we gave in this member about that, it's on our YouTube channel. The better way to focus on your legacy with Allah Azza wa Jal, with sincerity, working towards what pleases Allah Azza wa Jal. And if you do that with sincerity, there might, look at the lives of the great that lived before us from the Muslim Ummah. And they started off working sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They weren't trying to get famous. They weren't trying to get recognition. And wherever, in any aspect of Islam, do we give sadaqah to get famous, or do we do an act of worship and fast so people know that we fast? They always started sincerely. Some of them got famous. Some of them got recognized. But they weren't motivated by people recognizing them. And that's the problem when we're pushing for everyone to just leave some kind of legacy behind. People have done crazy things just to be remembered. But focus on your legacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those who see the truth as clear truth and follow the best of it. And to make us of those who recognize falsehood as clear falsehood and abstain from it. فَاللَّهُمَّ أَرِنَا الْحَقَّ حَقًّا وَارْزُقْنَا اتِّبَاعَهُ وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم لا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا. اللهم أبرم لأمة الإسلام أمرا رشدا يعز فيه أهل طاعتك ويهدى فيه أهل معصيتك ويؤمر فيه بالمعروف وينهى فيه عن المنكر يا سميع الدعاء. وصلى اللهم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وقوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله.